Welcome back, viewers. We are on tip 2, and tip number 2 is filter via meaningful drop-downs. So meaningful means a lot of different things for a lot of different reports. I'm going to show you some strategies to make what I believe are objectively more meaningful drop-downs in this particular report case than you may have been aware that you were able to do. So to start off with, we're going to imagine a filtering scenario where we want to filter on the customer, right? So we have our cust invoice trans data. We're already filtering on the start and end date with the date range. And now we want to add a filter for a customer. So we're just going to add this string cust filter here as a parameter of the data method. You'll see I've already added that there. And then we are going to add that to the query ranges. Now, you remember on our query, we had a query range on invoice accounts, so we can use that here, and we can set it invoice account, and we can set that query filter to be cust filter. And I'll get rid of that comma. And that's going to give us that filter implementation. If I build the business logic and refresh the data set, you'll notice we have this string cust filter, which we can then put customer IDs in, which are, it's filtering on invoice account here because of that range there. So if we put customer IDs in there, we will be filtering by those customer IDs. Now, that's not very useful because if you look, I have to know my customer ID. So for example, I'm actually going to null these two here, and then I'm going to put star in here. And notice star isn't a customer ID, but it basically is putting that text into the grid filter. So I do have stuff from invoice account 4000 and 4001, 4002. So let's just put in 4002 in there. You'll see when it reruns this that we are indeed filtering on 4002. But a filter's not really all that good if you have to run it without the filter before you figure out what you need to do. So what we want is a drop down here. And we're going to get that drop down from another query that I've built. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into the Moxel, add a data method. I'm going to view the code, and that is going to return a data table, and the data method is going to be called demo cust data. That's because I've built a query called demo cust data, and that one is going to be return AXQuery.execute query select star from demo cust data. Now this one we don't need to specify ranges on. Now this was another query that I put in just off to the side. Here I'll show you what that looks like here. We have demo cust data. I just have just cust table as a data source, and I'm showing account num and name, and there's no ranges there. So really simple there. So we don't need to do any ranges, we've got that. And so I'm going to build the business logic, go back into the Moxel, and I'm going to now add a data set. The data set's going to be demo cust data, and that is going to be from business logic. Now, in order to do such a simple business logic here, this is just running the query, I could have done this one as a query to get where we stand now, but we're going to go much, much further than this, and we're going to need to have the data method. You basically, again, cannot do anything worth doing without using these as data methods. So we're going to go into cusFilter. I'm just going to show you the basics here. If we want to make this a drop down instead of a string, so I'm going to go in here. The value is going to be the account num, and let's use name for the label. So now when we preview this, we of course have a excuse me. We now have a drop down for this. So that may be useful, but let's suppose that some people do know account nums and some people know names. So we don't want to show just the name as the display value there. We want to concatenate the account num and the name. Well, we can do this with some of the data table methods based on this data table object. So first, rather than just outright returning this here, we're going to store this data table into a variable called ret for return, and eventually we're going to return ret. So I'll just leave that there for now. And then what we can do is we can add a data column, which is going to be a computed column. And we're going to add this to the table, and it's just going to compute that concatenation for us. So we're going to get new data column, and then we're actually going to use this this overload here, column name, data type. So the column name is going to be label, and the data type is going to be type of string. And then what we do in order to make this a computed column is we set this value expression. And that expression is going to be account num plus colon space, and that's a string. I put the single quotes because that'll evaluate to double quotes in the expression, and name. Now this expression syntax is not C#. It looks a lot like Excel expressions, but you can Google for that, the data column.expression field, to find out what you can do. It's fairly limited, but you can do simple concatenations, and that's all we need it to do right now. So we have that column, we have it as a computed column with this expression, and then we're just going to say ret.columns.add that column. And now we're going to return ret. So we're going to rebuild our business logic here, go back and refresh this data set, and then we'll notice that the label column comes up there. So we can then, instead of setting the values for this cusFilter, we can have the label actually be our new field label. And then if we look here, we can see that it's now has our computed column on there. We have both the account num and the name. And it's still just returning the account num as the value. Now, suppose we wanted to do another thing. You wouldn't necessarily do it on this drop down because this is sorted in a way that makes sense. But suppose you wanted to sort this by name, or suppose by default it was sorted in just a random order, and you wanted to ensure that it was sorted by something. We're going to actually sort it by name so you can see the difference here. But that's actually very easy to do using link. So I'm going to put a using phrase in there so that we get the full functionality of system.link. If you're not familiar with link, it's a massive topic. I would encourage you to Google around on it, but it should be pretty straightforward what we're doing here. Now, in order to get this data table in a format that we can start to use link on it, the data table itself has a method called asEnumerable, and that will turn it into a notice here, this is an enumerable row collection of data rows. So we can use link on that enumerable data collection of rows, and one of the link methods is order by, and what we have is a data row, and so we're going to take that data row and we're going to compute the name value of that data row and put it to string. So that's what we're going to order these things by. And then in order to get it back to a data table, which we need to do, we can call asDataView, which has a method called, notice this turns it into a data view, and the data view has a method called toTable. That seems like a lot, but once you get those three transitions, you take the data table as enumerable, then you can do a bunch of link stuff on it, then you can call it as a data view back to table. We're going to notice we're going to be doing more link stuff on here in just a moment, but let's build that business logic. And now it should be sorted by the name here. Now let's go back in and refresh our method there. Okay, now it's going to re-execute that query. And you see that now it's sorted by the name instead of the ID. Now, one thing that we can't do anymore is select all customers, because this is a list of customers and the word all customers is not on this list. Now, yes, we could do this in a multi-select, and I'm not going to actually get into that. It's very easy to do. If you decide to go multi-select, you probably won't need to do this portion of it. But what I want to do is I want to add a row to this data table, which is going to basically return star, which when we had this this cusFilter string object, when we just typed in star, that went for all customers. So what I'm going to do is up here, before I've added the computed column, I'm going to say data row. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say ret.rows.add, and this .add can either take a data row or it can take a number of objects, and those correspond to the they correspond to the data inside of the row. So account num and name are going to be the two things that we need to feed it. The account num is going to be star, even though that's not an account number. That's what's hitting this cusFilter. And so then the name of that is going to be any customer. Okay. So we're going to build that, going to go back in here, we're going to preview this. We'll refresh the data. Now if we preview the report, we should see that we have any customer. But notice the any customer is saying star colon space any customer, right? We don't want that same syntax, and I also spelled customer wrong. We don't want that same syntax if the cust ID is star. Maybe we just want it to say any customer. So there we change the expression to if account num equals star, then nothing otherwise account num plus colon space, and we're going to append name to that. That ends the if. So this syntax I found via Googling. Again, it's not, I don't know what language it is. I don't know what limitations you have in these column expressions, but this expression will work for this column. You just got to kind of try. And I'm going to get customer, get that spelled correctly. So we're going to save that, rebuild it, refresh it, and preview. So now we can see any customer just says any customer. And if we run the report, you can see that the cust filter is star. So that's all customers, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to do, except for a couple things. Any customer shouldn't be sorted in with all the rest of this. We should put any customer on top. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to do that in order by syntax, again, using order by. The data row is going to go into a Boolean expression, which is data row dot count num dot toString does not equal star. Now I could have done equals star. That would end up ordering it right to the bottom. That's not what I want, but it's because false evaluates in order by before true. And so this statement being false will appear before everything where this statement is true. So that's how to get the account number of star to be at the top of the list. And after you do an order by with link, there's a then by, which is exactly the same as the order by, except it preserves the previous order. So I just changed that second order by to a then by. And then we'll rebuild this business logic and refresh the customer data. And we'll preview that report. And now the cust filter has any customer on top. Now suppose we have 1 million customers, or are planning on having 1 million customers in a couple of days. Your sales team better get rolling on that in this particular case, but in the other case, it's very difficult to go searching through and hit a drop down, but you still want the functionality of not having to remember customer IDs or customer names. It's even harder when you have 1 million customers to remember the cust IDs. So what we're going to do is have a way to filter this filter list. Yeah, we're going nested in this case. We're going to build up a search term, and we're only going to show values from this demo cust data that fit in with that search term. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. We could have a query filter on this and pass the string down. But what I want to search on is I want to search on this this syntax, this evaluated column, which doesn't exist in AX. So what I'm going to do is use link, especially since this is a quick query to return data from. If this starts to run slow in this way, you do want to push the filtering down into AX so you're not getting too much data back. But even with a reasonably large number of customers, this still works relatively fast. So cust filter, it's going to take a string value there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a simple search syntax. It's not a true search like a Google search, but what we're going to do is we're going to throw out everything in this string that the user supplied. I'm going to throw out everything that's not alphanumeric or a space. We're going to replace every space with a wildcard character, and then we're going to use that as a regex pattern and see if that matches the row. And by matching the row, I mean if this column evaluates to a string which that regex matches. So to begin with, I'm going to import regex. So let's say using system.text.regular expressions. And then I'm going to say public static regex from search term string search term. So I'm just offloading this for readability's sake. This is just going to return a regex value that we can then use to pump all these rows to find out if they match. So to begin with, I'm going to modify that search term, which is going to be the pattern of the resulting regex, in the way that I said before. So we're going to say search term equals, and then I'm going to create a new regex to throw out non-alphanumeric characters. So new regex, the pattern of this is going to be anything which is not A through Z, A through Z, or 0 through 9, or white space character. Okay, and then what we want to do is use this regex. So I'm just going to tell the compiler what it is so that I don't have to put this across multiple lines. So I've told the compiler that the stuff in this is a regex, and we're going to call the replace function of that regex. So we're going to use search term as the input, and anything that matches this regex, which means any non-alphanumeric character, becomes nothing. It's not entirely true. Any non-alphanumeric or non-space character becomes nothing. And then we're going to do this whole same thing again, except to replace space characters. So any white space character gets replaced with a wildcard, which is dot star. And then, so now this search term is the pattern for the regex we want to return. So we're just going to return a new regex of that pattern. The pattern's going to be search term, and we're going to use a regex option for ignore case. Just makes life a little easier. You can do whatever search you want to put in if you want to look for exact matches or whatever. This is just what I've found works best in most scenarios, so feel free to use whatever kind of search you want. So now up here, before we return this, I'm going to define a regex called reg, and that's going to be equal to regex from search term, and the search term was this string cust filter here. Let's call this cust search. Make life a little easier. That sounds too much like the other thing. So now that we have this regular expression, we want to filter the data table, making sure that we only include rows that match. So let's do this before the order by. We're going to say where, and then data row is going to go to the Boolean expression dr, label, which is the name of this column that was computed there, dot toString, and it's going to be reg, the regex that we got up here, dot isMatch. So that's our where expression. This will now not include rows for which do not match the search term. Okay, so we're going to save this. We're going to build the business logic. We are going to head up here. We're going to refresh the data. Notice it's asking for a cust search now. We're going to take that and go up there on it, and we are going to allow that to be blank. Alright, and now we should see, if we preview here, that when we go on blank it matches everything. And if we did something, for example, the matches all of these. And notice it still matched Northern Lights because there's THE right in there. Any will still match any customer, and a blank string will match everything. So there you go. That is a powerful drop down if I've seen one. We have the full link expressions here. You can do a ton of stuff with link. We've added a computed column, picked our own ordering, and we've culled those based on a regex search. So tons of flexibility there to do whatever we want. All right, I will see you in the next video with tip number 3.